say. Welcome, everybody, to this summer session. The summer is meant to relax, to slow down a bit, also if you're at work, and take some time to get inspired, reading some books, and maybe even joining this summer session, which we organize today. And we will repeat it end of August, either in August, also a live session like today, or we share the recording of today and then we can maybe do a Q&A in August. And the entire idea is for those who are either at work or on holiday, but feel like they would like to get inspired on a topic that touches us all, our salaries, our rewards, and the regulations that are coming. So we thought to invite, well, I would say the two experts on this matter, one of the best experts in the market. On the one hand, Virginie. Virginie, she already explained me what she was going to talk about today just before we started recording. And yeah, I was already impressed by her knowledge and her depth on the matter. And then we also have people, participants joining. And we also have Isabel, who is product lead at Yubo, which is the technology and that elevates and empowers the technology to support all the tips and tricks and processes and things you can do that Virginie is going to talk about in the realm of merits and bonuses. And me, I'm obviously Nick. I'm the driving force behind the Ambassadors Network. Virginie, you can go to the next slides. And so this summer session is organized within the context of the Ambassadors Network. We help people experience extraordinary workplaces that bring out the best in everyone. And what we are going to talk about today is also a way to organize. One a little bit back. Sorry, Virginie. The topic that we are going to talk about is we also want to share how you can best structure your reward systems so that it does bring the best out in everyone in your company. And so maybe a quick word on Ambassadors Network. We are a network organization. We make both free resources, videos, podcasts, articles, webinars like this. And we organize paid activities in which we help what we call ordinary people like you and me that work at any level of the organization and that are driven to make the organization better. And with better, we mean more human, more transparent, more inclusive, more fair. And we do this by showcasing cutting edge organizations that have creatively overcome some business challenges that we all face. And we also design learning journeys, and we draw also insights from ancient mythology. And if you're interested in that, just look at my background, because my book is coming and it's making the parallels between ancient mythology and their relevance for our organizations today. Okay. Yeah, we also won the Zero Distance Award last year for the groundbreaking work that we do in breaking down barriers in the corporate world, connecting companies together and helping them building better companies together. So that's on Ambassadors Network. Enough said. Virginie, could you give us a short, describe a short picture of what SD Worx is all about, please?
Yes, indeed. In 2 words, well, we are a leading provider in HR solutions, well known for our payroll solution, but actually we are active in 5 HR domains. We have over more than 75 years of experience, and we have a team of 7,500 HR professionals. So you see lots of people we can rely on.
Okay.
Here you see actually the 5 different activities, but today we are here located in the payroll and reward. but supported by our consulting activities and by software and, of course, our data, which is our USP because we are the biggest and largest payroll provider. So we can capture lots of data to help organizations to make some analysis, benchmarking, and so on.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Isabel, I think most of the participants, they already knew a little bit about SD Works, but they are probably also very curious. Hubo, what is Hubo?
Yeah, so Hugo is actually a tool we developed. So out of Teal partners, together with SD Works, and at Teal partners, we developed HR software for companies, for larger companies, and we partnered up with SD Works to develop Hugo. And Hugo is actually a tool that will streamline your entire bonus and merit process. And what Hugo does and is all about, I'm going to tell you later. In this hour. So
yeah. So basically, the last part of the session is dedicated to understanding how this type of software can support our organizations. Okay. Well, that was the introduction, ladies. It's time to dive into the content. I hope everybody is warmed up and ready. Virginie, what are the biggest challenges, HR challenges in terms of rewards that companies face today?
Yes, well, we have several. First of all, each company wants to get the cost under control. This is a major one for everybody. A second one, an HR challenge, is the four different generations on the work floor, with each of them their particularity and each of them different expectations. The third one is the increase in individualization. So the world changes, people look much more at themselves. But first of all, as well, attracting and retaining talents. We are still in the war for talent, and people on the employment market knows that. So they try to challenge us a little bit more. And then the company's reputation or the image that you have with your company on the market. The digitalization is also a challenge. And we've done a survey lately, earlier this year in February, with 300 HR professionals. And actually, the top three challenge on reward are, first of all, the cost control. Secondly, the financial well-being for all the employees. So they really want to reduce the financial stress. And then thirdly, the pay transparency. As you know, we will have to be more and more transparent with our salary and salary components.
Okay. So ESG is like, top of mind. I don't have a good comparison, but it's like the buzzword of the times, right? Of this year. It's ESG all over the place. What is the link between rewards and European legislation, and why does it matter to us?
Yes, indeed. So ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. It's a kind of a framework that will be needed in your organization because you will have to report on certain data. Actually, it's some kind of extension of corporate social responsibility, where there you had a kind of ethos, an internal framework that was based on the triple bottom, the three P's, like they say, the people, the planet, and the profit. But now it's an extension. Before it was only internal, now it become external. And companies will have to report on several domains. So the environmental criteria, the social criteria, but also governance criteria. We, as the Works, of course, we focus on the social because it's linked to the people, it's linked to the salaries. We have lots of data. We can help organization with the reports that they will have to do regarding the ESG. And in that sense, we have a timeline, or we don't have a timeline, but everybody has a timeline and a time frame to respect. Actually, as from next year, you will have to report on 2024 if you are a large and from public interest entity with more than 500 employees. The year after that, all large companies listed or not meeting 2 out of the 3 criteria, more than 250 employees or 40 million net turnover, or more than 20 million in total assets, will also have to report. And then the last part in 2027, reporting on data of 2026, are the listed SMEs. So you see, everybody should start right now with all those data and reporting needs to be ready for one of those years.
There I have a question, Virginie. I've noticed
Yes.
that there's several mindsets in companies. There are these first movers who are almost already stressing and making sure that they are doing what they can to put this in place. And then you have the other type of companies that say, yeah, we lean back, we don't do anything yet. And in case we get, we fail to make the first test, we will say, we didn't know we had to do this, and then we will fix it. Do you have any preference to one mindset or the other, or are they both okay? What is your advice there?
Well, every time something new comes in the market, you have always the one who jump immediately with the new regulation, and then you have the laggards who comes at the end. But see that it's really a hot topic that is really all in the open. I would suggest to have a look at what would be needed at a particular time and to get ready in advance, because if you need to report some data, you need to make sure that the base within your organization is structured and that you have the possibility to report on certain data. So this is why it's better to be prepared and to have the time for a slow progression than all of a sudden to get a knife on the throat and to make sure to get all this data collected.
Okay, so now let's discover together what that then means.
Yeah. More particularly, there is also a regulation or a directive, a European pay transparency directive that came because they want to close the gap gender in salaries in Europe, because there are still lots of countries where the difference in salary between men and women are more than 15%. Belgium is a good student, and we only have 5% gap in salaries between men and women, especially with the older generations on the market, labor market. The younger generation, the gap is even smaller. But what does this mean? Well, it means that as from mid-2026, people and employees will have to get more transparency about their salary increase, that they also will have to get an idea of their, of course, individual compensation, but also the average compensation of people in the same level of same function, so that you are able to compare. So this means that if you have to report on that and if you have to grant that transparency, that you have to have a really solid reward policy to be able to communicate and to explain why there might be some differences in people who have the same function but have a different salary.
Ooh.
Yes.
You'll have some explaining to do.
Yes. So the pay scales need to be transparent. So if you don't have a reward policy, if you don't have a reward strategy, probably you won't have pay scales either. Then candidates starting or being interested in starting a position in your company will have to get an idea of their starting salary, but also of the salary range. So what is the progression they can make in the function in your company? really important one. And then as last, they will also be able and needed to report on that. And the bigger you are as an organization, the more reporting that you will have to do, even some reporting on your internet and so on. So it's really a big thing. Eh?
Yeah, in Flemish we say that's a big sandwich.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Okay. What is the impact according to you?
Yes, if you don't have a solid reward policy, first of all, you will have difficulties in attracting new competencies, but also on retain your talent. And we know by experience, and all HR professionals knows that as well, that if you have really talented people, they find easily another job on the labor market. This will also mean that you have a blind spot on your employee value proposition. You do not really know where you fit into this labor market with your total reward package, which could have an impact on your image in the market, but also the perception by your employees that you are not in line with the market. So this is really a big thing to do and to start with.
Okay. So I'm a newcomer in this area, and I
Mhm.
obviously know that in business, in companies, we have reward systems. But what do you mean with a strategic reward policy? Why is it important that you have it? And what are the main challenges? What are the biggest pitfalls?
Yes, I'm going to try to explain this in a crisp and concise way because I could talk hours about it. But what is a reward policy? Actually, it's a set of principles, strategy, and measures that you take to be able to remunerate your employees in a correct way, in a fair way. Why do you need that? Because you want to be consistent in rewarding people within your organization, and it should be based on performance, experience, competencies that they have, but in line with a certain reference market. Reference market is also really important. And then, of course, you need it because you want to attract and retain the best talent and to motivate them to collaborate to achieve those business results, business objectives that you might have in your organization. So what is the strategy? So it's the package, how you set your salaries within your organization with all his components. We can talk about bonuses, fringe benefits, promotion opportunities, or other forms of compensation. So actually, in a summary, you want to become an extraordinary employer and to attract and retain the best people by offering them a fair reward package. So what is actually the main challenge for the employers? Well, they want to balance the challenges and the gains. So have the administrative burden, lots of processes, the cost control that they do have comparing to their budget, but also all the legal compliance they need to respect. On the other hand, they want to attract the people and they want to retain the people. The employees, on the other hand, they're going to choose an employer based on the attractive total reward package. And it's really key and important to stress and to use that internally, but also externally, that a reward package consists of financial, but also non-financial advantages, as well as individual or collective. So this is really key because generally people focus on what is net at the end of the month on their bank account. And I still have a look at my bank account at the end of the month as well. But we might not forget that apart from that, you have lots of other things that are really important as well, such as the flexibility that you could have in organizing your work, flexibility of working from home, learning opportunities, and so on and so on.
Oh, Vivian, here I have a small question. So
Yes.
having had businesses with employees, I recognize what you say, that there's a high focus on the nets,
Yeah.
And what I always struggled with was, how do you create transparency and understanding
Mm-hmm.
that with the employee base, that it's more than that? Because some things, like the savings for pensions and things
Yeah.
are quite technical. So do
Yeah.
you maybe have one or two best practices there on how you could do that?
Yes, of course. And we will come to that topic
Ah,
later on
okay.
in the presentation. We
Okay.
even have tools and solutions for that.
Okay, great.
But before you get to that point, we need to start from the beginning, and that is designing and developing your reward strategy for your own organization.
Hmm.
So, and what does it consist of, that reward strategy? Of course, of a structure of the functions in your company. Because if you don't have a structure, then it's difficult to have a reward policy. Secondly, pay scales. So it's important to know, what can I pay somebody in a certain job in a certain level? And then, indeed, all the wage components, there are lots of them. So, but we need to adapt in function of the culture of your company, the maturity of your organization, and so on and so on. But now the question is, how do I get there?
Indeed.
So we have a path to that financial well-being for your employees. And the part is, we start with a reward audit to have an overview of what do you have within your organization, from the financial and non-financial benefits.
And
We
so
look
there,
at
Virginie, for example, sorry to interrupt, but the ability to work from home, so having that flexibility, that's also an element that you consider part of probably a non-financial benefit of the
absolute,
total. Yeah. Oh, that's
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So the job architecture, so you need to have a structure in your function. We can help you with that too. We come on that topic later on. Then the benchmarking. You will have to compare your function with functions in the market, but really important to compare with the right reference market, size of organization, region, industry, sector. All these elements are really important. Then we are going to take into consideration the internal, but also the external equity, and then to develop an attractive total reward package that
Hmm.
will take care of the financial well-being of your employees. So, what is the solution for that? Well, it's a whole project together with the clients. So first of all, we do our audit, as well the reward audit, and eventually a legality check or a legal audit to make sure that you are compliant with all your documents with the latest legislation. Then we are going to develop a roles matrix or do a job evaluation and classification exercise. This is what we call the internal equity, everything that's related to the functions within your organization. Thirdly, we are going to do the function mapping. We are going to look at the content of your functions, and we are going to map them with the content of our functions in our reward tools. To then do the market analysis, the benchmarking exercise with support of our tools that we call the external equity. And then we are going to develop those famous pay scales, and we are going to determine the wage components. And then we are going to communicate. We're going to start at the top of the organization towards the stakeholders and the unions, and then to go to the employees. And this is where it fits your question that we will discuss later on. And then we have the talent cycle that each year again starts all over again. And there we will have the link with Isabel and the UBO tool.
Hmm.
So here you have your job structure, you have your pay scales, including the wage components, and then at last you have the HR instruments that you will use.
Quick
The
question.
analysis,
What
yes.
is how are the unions embracing or not embracing this new legislation? Are they supporting it? Are they resisting it?
I
Is
think
it difficult to
they will
say?
they will probably support it because it will give more transparency to an organization.
Mhm.
So they are also all in favor of having a clear job structure in an organization based on a classification exercise. So I think they might be in favor of it.
Oh, so this
It's
might be this
it's
new
too
legislation and what to be done might be an instrument for employers and unions to collaborate together on, let's say, not reinventing the reward system, but at least updating it and making it more
yeah,
future proof. Okay,
absolutely,
interesting.
absolutely. So the
Please
analysis,
continue.
yeah, so the analysis, so a question you should ask yourself, what makes my total reward strategy attractive for your company? Is it aligned with the latest legislation? How do I keep my total cost under control? And how do I juggle with all those different generations on the work floor? So, what you could do as an organization, get that overview of your current financial, but also the non financial benefits, because this is really crucial and it has a huge impact on the total reward package. Identify the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. Make a SWOT analysis of your current reward policy. Have a legal partner, an analysis of your company collective agreements, internal policies, regulation, and so on and so on.
Mm.
So this is more or less the visualization of an overview of financial and non-financial benefits. But this is only a grasp of it. Really, when I start doing that exercise with company, sometimes I even have not enough space in my quadrants to fill it, because
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, oh yes, but we do have that, we have that advantage, we have that event, we give that with Christmas, we do that with New Year, etc., etc., and it becomes really very full.
And is it the definition of attractive? Is that to have in each of these quadrants as much as things as possible, so the highest possible salary and then all the meal vouchers, the pension plan? Is that the goal, or can this be unique to any company and culture?
It's, for me, it's unique to every company, and it depends. You need to have the right elements to attract the people. You need to
Mhm.
have the right company elements as well, financial and non-financial. It's not having the most, but what is key within your sector, within your organization, the size of your organization. So it's very linked to the culture of your company.
So it's not as simple as we pay the highest salaries in the market, but we don't do anything else. But anyway, we have the highest salaries, so we will attract the best talent. It's not as simple as that.
Not necessarily if they have to work 20 hours a day. I don't know if you will find lots of people who are willing to work for a very high salary, but sacrificing
Hmm.
lots of other things in life. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything depends a little bit of the outcome and the priorities that the culture in your company has.
Okay, thank you.
So then we are going to develop a roles matrix or do a job classification exercise. So what could you do to ensure that internal equity? Internal equity means how the functions are compared to each other, to one another. So first of all, it's important at least to know what functions do you have in your organization. Imagine you get your loan at the bank, you have the money on your bank account, and you are starting your own business. First reflection that you will make to yourself: am I doing this all alone? Probably not, maybe at the beginning, but at a certain stage you will have to hire people. Then you will have to know, yes, what kind of competencies will I need to be successful in the market? So then you will create functions, you will attract employees. It's also important, once your organizations become bigger, to have a job titling consistency exercise, and not giving titles, manager, director, vice president, name it, all those attractive titles. And then all of a sudden you don't know anymore what the consistency is. So it doesn't make any sense. Then you can do a job evaluation and grading exercise. You have several methodologies on the market. As it Works has his own methodology. Or you could develop a roles matrix where you can have several levels and several roles to be transparent and communicate about the job architecture and structure to ensure the fairness. And then update on a regular basis, because what was true 2-3 years ago maybe is not true anymore today.
Yeah.
So this is more or less a look and feel of a roles matrix. So you see we determine several roles: people manager, experts, enablers. What is the key objective of those three roles? Well, managing teams and workers, having expertise in a particular field, or being an executor and having a support role. Then we will look at the level. Do they determine the strategy, deploy the strategy, optimize, or guarantee quality and efficiency? And then we will plot those functions on your particular role matrix.
In this exercise, the matrix usually is your advice to keep it simple?
Well, this was an example of a real client. It was a new company started. If you have a big organization with lots of functions, yes, you have to take all your functions into consideration. So again, it depends on the size and the number of functions within your organization. You can make a simple version, but you can extend it, linking all the competencies with the levels of the competencies to the different roles, and even the behavior indicators as well. So it will be a support for all your HR processes within your organization. So you can make it very easy and lean, or you can make it really an HR management tool.
All right.
Then you are going to do the market analysis. We are going to look at the external equity. It's important that you do once in a while a market analysis and that you compare your salaries to a reference market based on the size, the region, and also the industry, to remain very competitive and attractive. Be consistent with the raises. This is again where the link with UBO is. And then develop a comprehensive.
Why? Sorry, why, Virginie? Why is there a link with UBO software in the raises?
Because we develop a strategy, they develop the management tool to support all that.
So the UBO helps and supports you to maintain consistent. Okay.
Yes, because well, Isabelle will talk about it later, but consistency in raises is important because you cannot give raises à la tête du client, because so there need to be a logical structure behind it, and we will discuss that a little bit later. So, but be flexible as well to change and to adapt to the external market, because sometimes I hear clients saying, oh, yes, but we have a pay structure. It's 15 years old and it still works. We did the index every single year. It's not true, because you miss a big part of movements on the market, new functions that come on the market. Sometimes there is a bigger need for particular functions, so that will have an impact on the increase of salary for those functions. So it's really important to do that exercise. And as well to consider adjusting your pay structure to maintain that external equity, of course. So we use our reference functions. We have 293 reference functions in our tools, divided into 12 functional areas and 4 different roles. It's not the topic today to go in depth in the tool. If participants are interested, I can give them a demo if they contact me directly. But it's really an interesting tool with 3 subscription levels, and we go up to 39 benefits in the tool. And there is also the possibility to report on total cost, and this is something really new.
Virginie, I'm a little bit lost with the link between what you just discussed with the reference functions,
Yeah.
and now you show the tool. So what's the problem that this tool solves?
It doesn't solve a problem. The functions are in the tool,
Okay, and
and the
then
functions are linked to data. And you will
okay,
choose in the tool a reference market based on size, based on industry, based on location. Is it in France? Is it in Wallonia? Is it in Brussels? And then, for instance, a support assistant, you will look, yes, what is the benchmark salary in Brussels, in a service provider environment, in an organization with more than 500 people. And then
okay,
you
clear.
get all the data that you need. So we've done the internal equity with the job evaluation and the roles matrix. We've done the benchmarking external equity, and now we are going to develop pay scales. That's a pay structure defining how you're going to pay your different roles and levels with your organization. It also includes a pay progression methodology. How can people evolve on the pay scale? That's really important. And you will be able to and have to be transparent as from 2026 in that domain. But also then we are going to develop an attractive total reward package, including lots of different wage components. So internal equity, external equity, salary structure, and then all the wage components. So you see there are lots of them. So actually a nice slide one.
Yeah, but it also represents how these new types of wages are popping up, like
Yeah. Indeed. And yeah. And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And each of them has its own regulation. So you need to take that into consideration as well.
And is your main message that companies should use the coming ESG legislation as a trigger to set up a strategic reward structure, or is a strategic reward structure required in order to comply to the legislation?
Well, if you will have to report, then at least you will have to have a clear reward strategy. So for the company, have no reward strategy at the moment, no reward policy. So I sincerely give them the advice to start with it, because it takes a little bit of time to develop such kind of reward policy. And if you have to report in 2026, then it's tomorrow actually.
Yeah, it's tomorrow indeed. Okay.
So then we can go to the flexibilization. Here we come to the different generations on the work floor, because every single generation has his own needs and his own expectation. There is a possibility via a cafeteria plan to give actually some flexibilization of their package. So this means that each individual will have the possibility to make a selection of some wage components that are more interested for them.
Yeah, it's kind of a web shop where I can spend a part of my salary on products that I want choose myself. Oh, that's also.
Indeed. And then, of course, we come to the communication towards the employees. Well, this is the total reward statement. This is the tool that you will use once you have developed your reward strategy to communicate towards your employees. First of all, there's also the communication towards the stakeholders and the unions. What you can do for that is hold information sessions within your organization, make some customized presentation for each and single level within your organization, organize webinars, or have direct communication towards the employees with the total reward statement. And there we have several forms of reward statement. Either it's a punctual one, it's a one-off, it's a picture of a certain moment in the year where you will say to your employee, well, look at all the benefits that you've received for the 12 past months.
When when they're complaining. You say, hey,
Voilà,
look.
it helps. It helps to put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Or you can have as well a digital reward statement that is linked to your payroll, and where people will have the possibility on their iPhone, on their laptop, to have an overview of all their benefits. Once or twice a year, you can do an upload of the non-financial benefits so that you keep the total reward package complete. Of course, before and after harmonization or integration, when there is an acquisition of an organization and so on. And finally, the candidate reward statement that you will use when you have potential candidates who wants to join your organization. Remember at the beginning, the ESG regulation that will also the directive about transparency. Well, therefore, it's really important to use that candidate reward statement. And then it's up to Isabelle.
Yeah, Isabel, because at Teal Partners, they are basically reinventing the payroll software, which is a huge project. They also have a super successful project, software focused on flex income plan, so the cafeteria plan. And then you have this third software, which is Ubo. Isabel, enlighten us. What does Ubo do? What can we do with it? How can it help us in this area of reward system?
Okay, perfect. I'm happy to enlighten you about Yubo. So, very short, Yubo is actually a tool where you can streamline your entire bonus and merit process. And so, what you will do is you will configure your wage policy or your pay structure, as Virginie already explained earlier today. So, you can configure that in the Yubo tool. And then Yubo will actually calculate the bonus amounts and the merit increases. It's just a suggestion. So the Yubo tool will calculate it, and then you can really start your cycle, invite your managers, and your managers will actually work with those suggestions. So they can alter a little bit. For example, I want to keep that person a little bit more, a little bit less. They can play around with their allocated budget, and then of course, HR can centralize everything again.
Okay.
So very short.
Can you show it? I mean, do you have some slides on it, or?
Yeah, I have some slides, but I think Virginie is
in control.
Managing the
Virginie
slides.
is in control.
Yeah. Well, okay, thank you, Virginie. So, first of all, we will link also or explain the link between the performance management cycle and the reward cycle, which of course is done in Yubo. But it's part of the performance management cycle. And what is that actually? So first of all, you will do the KPI setting or the goal setting for your employees, which is done mostly in a performance management system, like, for example, WAPI. And then, of course, and at the end, you get the reward cycle. And that's actually how the KPIs or your evaluation is translated into euros. So it's translated into how much bonus am I getting, or what is my merit increase at the end or the beginning of the year.
Okay, so to recap, can you go one slide back, Virginie? So first, companies need to make sure they have smart metrics. Then they track it, and they follow the progress. Then there's the evaluation, and then they can give the recognition, basically the rewards of good performance. And it's for that step 4, that part, that Yubo is used.
Yeah, that's right. So as a base for the bonus and merit cycle, we'll use the KPIs and the scoring of the employees.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we also see a lot of challenges in the current performance management cycle or rewards cycle. And the first one is actually is a huge one, because we see a lot of bias and subjectivity in the process. When, for example, you don't have a clear wage policy or etc., we see that managers just get allocated budget and they can divide the budget as they want. But there's a lot of troubles because you get favoritism favoritism. It's very subjective process. And of course, when you have a structured process in place, like Virginie explained, and you have clear KPIs, you can really put in the objectivity into the process, which is very important with the transparency coming up, the transparency legislation. So that's the very first big one.
Wow. So as part of the transparency legislation, it's not just to make sure that the salaries are transparent, that but also that raises can be explained. And how do you explain them? By showing that the employee has achieved a number of KPIs.
Yeah, of course, that will be very important. And also, as Virginie explained, you have, for example, you have a job scale or a wage scale, and where is that person situated on that scale? And of course, you have to be able to explain your wage. For example, you have two people in the same scale. Why is one person making more than the other one? And that, of course, you need to be able to explain. And that's why you really want to put in fairness into the remuneration.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. The second challenge that we see is also it's a very time-consuming process because it's manually driven. In a lot of company, the reward cycles are still manually driven, which of course is very time-consuming, but also very prone to errors. So that's also a solution that will be better when using a tool like Cubo. And then also the communication is very, very important because it's a very important process. If you talk about the wages, you get the attention of all your employees, but you also want to communicate very clearly towards your employees, but also towards your managers during the process. What we see is also that the process is in a lot of cases misaligned with organizational goals. So actually, as an organization, you can use KPIs and you can use your wage structure as a tool to reach your organizational goals. For example, if you have strategic goals, strategic KPIs on employee level that support organizational goals, you really make sure that you reach those organizational or company goals easier and faster.
So you guys often see that there's it's unclear to me, where is the misalignment? Is it between the organizational goals and the reward structure?
Yeah, it's between the organizational goals and the individual goals of the employees.
Okay, yeah.
So you really have to see that they match, and that the individual goals support the company goals, so that they reach also that they contribute also to the company goals.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you see that there is a lack of insights right now because data is scattered over the organization, because there's no clear process in place. You really see that the data is scattered over the organization. And of course, you want to centralize everything and also report on everything.
What kind of data are we talking about here? You mean the data on the KPIs, or the data on salaries and different types of rewards? Is that scattered?
Yeah. So what is scattered is indeed, for example, for your cycle, you use, for example, your gross wage, but other benefits aren't taken into account. So it's very unclear to have the total overview of those things.
Okay, clear.
Okay. And what is very surprising, actually, is that we see that a lot of companies do use core HR systems, like, for example, SAP's SuccessFactors, the Workday, but they don't use it for their bonus and merit process. So they still use Excel. So that's very, very surprising to us. And that is also the reason why we developed Yubo as a solution for that process.
So Yubo is replacing Excel in the area of bonus and merit.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Voilà.
Yes. What are we looking at here, Isabel?
Yeah. So that is indeed the Yubo tooling. So it's very small. If you want to have an extensive demo, of course, I can show you. But with Yubo, we made actually a very efficient and user-friendly tool that will support the administrative process behind bonus and merit processes. So you will save a lot of time during that process. You will get a lot of more insights during the process. HR will see, for example, okay, where are managers in the approval process, which budget have been allocated, etc. So I will get a lot of more insights during the process, but also after the process. Because after the process, of course, all the data is in the system, so you will be able also to report on everything.
Okay, so just to make sure that I understand it, and again, I'm a virgin in this area. So when you have the software, you have someone from HR who's kind of coordinating the bonus and merit process to make sure that it's progressing and done in time. And then you have managers that have to indicate which employees get how many bonus, right?
Yeah. So as an HR, you will configure your wage policy.
Yeah.
And then the tool will do proposals on merit increases and bonus amounts based on your policy. But then as a company, so HR will actually invite all their managers to evaluate their teams and to allocate their budgets to make actually little alterations.
Yeah.
HR,
when you say today they do it in Excel, today there's this Excel that's been sent to the managers in which they have to input which employee gets which bonus, and that is now replaced by one fluent, flexible, easy to look at software.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And very useful is that HR, if you differ from the wage policy, it will be very visible also in the tooling. So you can immediately see, okay, this person is actually getting more or less than suggested by the wage policy. So it's very useful for an HR, also for the reviewing.
So when you say the wage policy, that means what Virginie described.
Yeah.
That structure is set up in Yubo.
Yeah, so that structure is set up in Yubo, but also the increase rules. For example, if you get a performance score of a certain amount, so for example, it's between 1 and 4, and you have a comparatio between certain percentages, then the person will get an X increase in their wage, and then the manager can defer a little bit. So it's the pay scales that Virginie explained, but also the policy for increasing someone's wage.
Okay, and I also read here it's in line with ESV reporting, so there's probably a reporting function in there so that you can generate a report that you have to provide to the legislator.
Yeah, that's correct, and I can show you even later of the presentation. How that will look like. So Yubo is really focusing on efficiency here. So it's a very efficient process, and HR has continuous insights into the process during or into the results during the process, but also after the process. And what is actually very surprising is that right now, if people don't use a system and they still use Excel, the decisions aren't pushed down very far in the organization. So decisions really remain in the top level because the administration is so heavy. Because of course you get an Excel file. If you have to cut it up in 20 pieces or 100 pieces and centralize it afterwards, it's very time consuming, errors. So actually the decision stays on top of the organization, but of course it's evaluating. It's about evaluating people, and you really want the evaluation to be on the manager where it's supposed to be. And with Yubo, you see that the decision is actually pushed down a lot more down in down the organization. So
okay, that's
that's
also
very
cool. It's very
interesting.
unbossed.
Yeah. So, and of course, it's aligned with your salary policy and your increase policy, and very employee centric. So, we really take into account also the experience of your employee, where the communication will be very clear what the situation is before and after the cycle, what the increases is, why this person got an increase, etc.
Are there a lot of human errors made currently in when you do it in Excel? Yeah, everything you manage in Excel generates. No, never mind my question. It speaks for itself. Yeah.
So then also the bridge between UBO and ESG, and more specifically the Beta Transparency Directive that Virginie already explained. So actually, what is will be obliged in your reporting for this directive is, first you have general pay transparency. For example, the pay ranges per category, the pay spread, etc. Then, of course, a gender pay gap, which is very, very hip and hyping right now. The pay difference by function. So you also are obliged to communicate the pay difference by category or job category or function. The number of men and women in different pay scales, also reporting on bonuses and benefits. So it goes further than just reporting on your gross wage. So really take into account all the bonus and benefits, and also on promotion and career paths, like who are the people that are actually growing through the organization and getting the promotions. So
Right.
also there the difference between
So these 6 reports are mandatory as part of the Pay Transparency Directive. Every company by 2027, I think it was the last phase. Every company will have to report these on an annual basis.
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow.
Now, if you ask what will that look like, well, it could look like this if you use UBO. So I took the two most important ones. I think the analysis on the pay ratio is very important. And that is actually the spreads within the wages within the organization. So what is actually the highest salary, the lowest salary, and what is the ratio between them? And then you really see, okay, what is the spread and also per decile. So you really can go in depth on that analysis. And then the next one is the one on the gender pay gap. Of course, you have other pay gaps where you can also report on, for example, per job category, etc., per degree. But of course, the gender pay gap is very recent and hip one. And there you have the difference also between the median and the mean or the average, because in the average, it also takes outliers into account. For example, if you have a few people that are making a lot more money than other people, so your highest earners, if they are, for example, all men or all female, then this will also be visible in the reporting of the average gender pay gap. That's Virginie explained. Belgium is actually a quite good performer in a quite good student there. So
good to know.
And then if you go read it, you have also additional insights, and they're divided in two big categories. So first of all, you have your pay ratio analysis, your pay gap analysis. So pay gap is also on degree, gender, etc. So it goes further. And you also have your generic data analysis, for example, your spreads, etc. Your comparison, also comparison with new wages. As Virginie explained, you don't only have to be transparent about those KPIs and this data to your existing employees, but also to new employees. If someone who joins the company, you will also have to explain, okay, you will be in this job category, and that is indeed the range that is playing there. What we will add also in the future is you will get historic insights on ESG goals. For example, my pay gap between men and women, how will it evolve? Or how is it evolving over time, over cycles, over years? Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? And that is also very useful in your reporting.
Yes, then maybe I'm coming back for a last slide. So what is
and then we
then?
can wrap it up.
Yeah, we can wrap it up. What is actually the link between the reward policy strategy and all our tools? Because we have lots of tools within SD Worx. But to summarize it in one slide, so we have the development of the whole reward policy. We use the integral grading system or the roles matrix, this for the job classification exercise, being able to respect the internal equity within the organization. So there you have your function house or function structure, job structure. Then we have our reference function, 293, divided in 12 functional domains and 4 different levels, together with our cost and reward tool, where all the data and the reference functions are in it. Then we develop actually the pay scales, and we are going to define the wage components. Could be eventually warrants. We can help you with that too, or with our flex income plan or cafeteria plan. So here you have your pay scales, including some wage components. Of course, we can do a lot more with variable pay, etc. Then we will have the communication towards the employees with our total reward statement. And don't forget UBO with the performance cycle and the merit increase. And also an additional tool who's called WAPI. That is actually for talent management, but that's maybe for another webinar. So there you have the link with our HR instruments. And that's it. So I don't know if there are any questions, if people still have time.
I suggest the following. If you go to the next slide. No, there was one slide with your contact details on. Do we have it?
Indeed.
Yes. So here are the contact details of Virginie. If you have any questions, additional questions on anything with regards to sales, salary policy, just contact her directly. All questions about bonus and merits, you can post to Isabel. Isabel, maybe share your email address and phone number in the chat. And then lastly, if you want to know more about the initiator of this summer session, which is the Unbossers Network, we have about 40 companies engaged in our network this year. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, and I will also post my email address in the chat. So I don't want to take too much time because we are already 7 minutes late. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this first summer session. Of all the people that participated in the beginning, 95% stayed until the end. That's typically a good indicator of how interesting it was. And again, we will organize a second session in August 20th, 3:30 CET. This will either be a repetition of this session, or it will be a Q&A, and we share the content of the session up front, and then you can come with your questions. We'll see. To be determined. I wish everybody a great summer. Enjoy. Go out, relax, get inspired, and get ready for the second half of the year. Virginie, Isabel, thank you so much for being here and sharing your in-depth expertise. Yeah, that was it for today, folks. Have a nice day.